I think I played the wrong intro, Chris.
You did.
I did. There's too many of them on here now. Oh well, I'm gonna have to clean up this system a little bit. There is
Yeah,
quite a few.
you're gonna have to rename them so you can actually tell what
Yeah,
they're for.
definitely. Um, yeah, okay. So today we're trying to give a little bit more information out for people that are trying to do Witch Wars free. This will also be useful for anyone that has got an interest in working with spirits and the like anyway, because we're talking about a very, I think it's a question that a lot of people have, but I don't see all that many people answering the question. And you know how we love to answer questions no one else will. So today is all about truth and lies. So spirits, can you trust them? Do they lie? Why do they lie? And most importantly, how do you find out whether they're liars or not? You know, what is it? Do you have to put them in a little triangle and threaten them? Do you have to evoke them properly? Like in this book I read, all about evoking them properly, is it? And then suddenly, miraculously, they tell the truth? Well, to be fair, Chris, it is called magic, so maybe that is the case. Maybe it isn't the case. So, your thoughts? You can answer the basic questions, obviously, which is spirits, do they lie?
Of course they lie.
Right. Can you trust another magical practitioner to tell you whether the spirit's lying or not?
No.
Okay, so maybe go into that. Because that's, to me, I think of it kind of like it's saying, here, that Shelley that we work with, is she nice or is she not a very nice person? Because I think that that person is going to have a bias according to their own,
Experiences.
their own experience. Now, I will say that obviously, if every single person thinks that said person's a bitch, then they might be a bad person. But if only one of them thinks they're a bitch, they might not be. So, it could be a little different. Also, if you remember, like some teachers at school, like there'd be some teachers that were really, really horrible. We had one guy called Mr. Hewitt. Mr. Hewitt was a right prick, right? But he might have been a prick to everyone, but he really liked me. So I was the only one that he actually did like. So if I was to say to another magical practitioner, does this spirit lie? Is it a liar? They might say yes because it lied to them. Or they might not know. Or that spirit might be a liar, but it might not necessarily lie to you. And I might end up going off on a tangent rambling and shit. So you better swoop in at this point, save the day, and bring us back onto stuff.
So yeah, it's one of these where people like to do far too much research about particular deities or particular types of spirits, and what they don't tend to realize is that is a group of opinions. These are reviews of those spirits, so they're all opinions on one particular perspective. At best, you might get
TripAdvisor.
yeah, TripAdvisor. That's a good example. These are kind of spirit advisors. It is just a series of reviews about interactions that other people have had with these spirits, and what most people tend to do. So, kind of moving away from the goetic very briefly, which is the example you were giving, is the fact that actually we're talking about historical second or third, fourth, fifth hand experience, where a lot of people will go to history books and books about mythology in order to find out how a spirit or a deity works with that. And when they're doing that, they're not realizing actually this is someone's interpretation of what they've read from either other literature and archaeological evidence to come to an assumption. And with that situation, it is it is Shelley's great 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 aunt, who none of them have ever met, but they've all heard about them from their grandparents, have then decided that, you know, great Aunt Nessie was a bitch. And they've based that entirely based on hearsay from hundreds of years later, further down the family, of all those little Chinese whispers that have gone down, and assumed that that is correct. But I know it is because I've got Aunt Nellie's hairbrush, so I know she liked to brush her hair. Like, well, how do you not know that that wasn't just a gift or left over in the house after the house burnt down, after she'd not lived there for 20 years and someone else had been squatting? Like, do you get what I mean? Like, I know that sounded like a really long-winded tangent.
I think you're the one that's going off on a tangent, but to go off on another tangent, ratethisspirit.co.uk, that domain name's only 99p. So if you did want to set up a spirit archive, like a review site of spirits and whether they were helpful or not, you could actually do it and buy that domain name. I'm wondering whether that should be a Thoth enterprise, whether we should have a database where people fill out reviews for spirits and whether they found them helpful or not. You'll have to let us know in the comments whether you think that's a good idea, because much like TripAdvisor, there'll probably be like certain followers of a specific deity, or rate another deity down that's in competition with their deity and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure how reliable the information would be, but there we go. That's the problem with information. So can we just draw a blank line and say you can't trust other magical practitioners and books and that to say whether they're trustworthy or not? Because even people that you know may be honestly saying that spirit's a liar, don't trust it. But remember, that spirit might only dislike that person. Just because you like them don't mean the spirit necessarily does. So, you know, is what it is. So really the crux of it, whether a spirit lies or not, how do we solve that problem if we can't trust the humans to tell us and what the books say? Can we trust other spirits to tell us?
Well, again, it depends on the relationships between those spirits.
But angels only ever tell the truth, surely, Chris.
Okay, sure. I'm just going to nod and not agree.
And when I watched that Amazon series, Shadowhunters, all the fairy folk, fae and that, they're only allowed to tell the truth. So surely the fae can be trusted. If you cannot trust the fae, Chris, who can you trust?
So it's one of those, isn't it? Again, it's where how trustworthy is the information you're getting? How is that coming to them? If you're dealing with a Greek spirit who's never met a Native American Indian nature spirit, then how are they supposed to know anything about each other? You know, we're not talking about segregation here and suggesting that, you know, spirits can't travel. I'm just saying, if there is no natural, you know, they're thousands of years separated, then how are you understanding that relationship? I'm not saying you can only ask Greek spirits about other Greek spirits. I'm just saying, how much do you trust the spirit you are working with to give you an answer about that spirit? And have they, you know, so, you know, just because you've put down grain for a particular kind of particular spirit does not mean that they need to tell you the correct information in order to get that grain, because you've already put it down. It's already there. It's already been offered. Doesn't guarantee you a good answer is probably the most obvious thing to say. And just because someone else has said, oh, that's a really great way to thank them, doesn't mean necessarily it is.
I have a question that may be a bit technical for some.
Okay.
If I summoned up Yahweh and I said, yo, Yahweh, is Odin trustworthy? Is Odin a liar? What do you think Yahweh would say? Would you think Yahweh would say, is as trustworthy as I am?
That's what I'd expect him to say. What he'd probably more likely say is, "Who is this? Who is this? Who is this Odin? I'm
Who
the
is
only
this
one that
Odin?
exists.
It's you and Dragon, it?
There is only one God, and it is me."
Oh, right. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff we got to sink our teeth into because obviously this is one of those things that some people are going to be on the edge of their seats wanting us to give away the secrets of this because it's the one thing they've been worried about with regards to summoning
Yeah.
up spirits. They've been like, I would summon that spirit, but I don't trust whether it will lie to me. But Liam and Chris have all of the answers. The oracles of Thoth, they have the answers. They'll tell me. They'll tell me what's worthwhile doing, how to check, all of this sort of thing. So what I suggest, Chris, we deliver one head fuck of an episode today, and we make it so complicated that they really have to scratch their heads and have a little think. So it's going to be a
Okay.
lot of like the moral dilemmas and stuff like that. Apparently, people struggle with. They're like, "Would you kill your mum or would you kill your dad?" And I'd be like, "Well." Which one gave me the most good presents as a kid? Okay, I know which one I'm going for. You know, it's simple, isn't it? Moral dilemmas. I was never good at moral dilemmas. I always answered the question too quickly, apparently. I don't know. Um,
I, I I wouldn't know this about you at all.
you wouldn't think it, Chris, would you? You wouldn't think it, I know. So, yeah, can you trust spirits to tell you the truth about other spirits? So, how does it work with that? Are we saying no, you can't, or are we saying maybe you can? Because if you say maybe you can, that don't answer their question at home, does it?
And let's say maybe you can,
Okay,
but
maybe you can.
to put it quite simply, how do you trust what Chantel says? Like,
Oh, I don't
what
trust anything Chantal says. I know too much about her, which really gives
exactly?
you a secret, an answer. Because I know that Chantal's a bitch, so I know that. So I'm going on my own gnosis here, not to trust that spirit.
Yeah. And this is how it works. What people don't do enough of is working with the spirits that they have in mind first. You should be establishing a rapport of some kind with these spirits first. Unless you're going to go down the ceremonial magician route, which is obviously just command it. But there's still no guarantee it's going to tell you the right thing. But at least you'll feel, a few inches longer after it.
Mm.
Yeah. So,
So I have a little story. Okay, it's a true story, but I think it illustrates an important point because they do say that great teachers are supposed to teach others in the form of stories and riddles, and I know we don't really do that a huge amount. We just give them the inside scoop. So let's try and be a bit more mysterious, like the great gurus and the
okay.
like.
Okay.
So I was in London this time, visiting London, and I was walking down the road, and these two ladies ran up to me and they said, can you tell me where the bus station is? We don't know where the bus station is. We're going to be late for the bus, the coach to get back, to get home. Where is it? And I pointed over there and I said, it's down there and then to the left. I didn't know where the bus station was, but they trusted me. So whose fault is that there? Because you could think they've approached me, and it wasn't like I was the only person on the road. Clearly, they decided to ask me because I didn't see them asking anyone else. Because let's see and explore the concept of whether spirits are liars and how to tell through the use of this story. So they've come up to me and they've asked me, and I've told them something, and they've taken my advice as gospel and ran off to, I don't know, some place. Could have been the bus station because I don't know where it is. But also, they could have taken the approach of asking several people along the road and taking a general consensus. Yeah. So that's kind of this equivalent of getting counsel from multiple people or multiple spirits.
Mhm.
Or what they could have done is they could have said, there's a police officer stood on the corner at the end of the road. If I ask the police officer, because the police officer is official, like it's like the equivalent of an angel. In fact, you can draw a lot of comparisons, I think, sometimes. I don't want to say anything about that because I'll probably get into trouble. But yeah, you can draw a lot of comparisons sometimes. So they would just say, well, that police officer, they're justice, you know, if you can't trust justice, who can you trust? I'll ask the police officer. Okay, so you've got a lot of ideas that you could go away and taking from this. You know, we've given you some thought processes, but ultimately, I think the thing to remember is that a decision needs to be made, right? Because they need to go in a direction to find the bus.
Yeah.
So the other thing, of course, is to take the slow road and just to walk down every road until they find the bus station on their own. But these ladies, they didn't have time to do that because they were late for their bus. So what's the moral of that story? They should have got there earlier to explore the area.
Or taken a map.
Or they should have picked the right person instead of the wrong person to tell them.
The question, interestingly, from that is you wonder whether or not she came to you because she didn't want to bother the policeman.
Maybe I was less scary than the policeman.
Which is the other thing.
They didn't want to get tasered, Chris. No,
not that. What I mean is you get this with spirits where people will go, oh, well, I don't want to bother Odin, but I might bother one of the lesser spirits, whoever they consider to be a lesser spirit. So the question is whether or not you either looked more trustworthy, or was it
I looked like a local.
You were closer,
I think I looked
and they
like
were lazy,
a local.
Or did you look local, and therefore they thought, oh, you'd know where you were. So, and that's what happens with a lot of spirits often. Is it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, this spirit isn't from round here, so you're not going to ask an Egyptian spirit necessarily how to get to Dudley. It's because why would the Egyptian spirit know anything about Dudley? But then you kind of equally have people that think spirits know everything, regardless of who the spirit is. So,
Well, some of them utilize the power of being in that dimension, so the ability to see outside the space of time and to be able to see in all places at once, essentially. Because a lot of people think that kind of omnipresence thing is somehow like a big thing. Actually, that's just like one dimension up, really. This is not really a big thing. They go on about like Yahweh and that omnipotent and omnipresent, so everywhere at once. I mean, it's really quite common. I mean, you could say everything's all in one place at once. In fact, I think a quantum physicist might say everything's all in one place at once. So,
Yeah.
But, okay, so practical details. Ultimately, there's a couple of things to remember here going by that story, right? One is that if I told them a lie and they found that bus station, even though I was a lion and had no fucking clue where it was, they'd then start thinking, I've got a rapport with that spirit. That spirit walking aside the road, Liam, with his dark red t-shirt on, he gave me the right answer that time, so I'll go back to him in the future. And then they go back to me a second time, possibly with a bigger question, one more at stake. For example, shit, where's that resuscitation machine box? There's someone dying and the like. I need the resuscitation box. And I say, is that direction? And then they go there and there's nothing there. When in reality, I was had my big coat on and I was stood in front of it. Bigger things at stake. So just think, if you've got a rapport with a spirit, they might have told you the truth in order to tell you a lie in the future. Because a spirits, a lot of them, if they're a slightly high level spirit, they can see into the future because they're outside of time. So they can set you up a treat. Ooh, like the old folk devil or the real devil that they say from Christianity, the devil from Christianity. They say, oh, the devil masquerades as all of these angels and happy things and the like, just to trick you. But whether that thing masquerades as a Yahweh or, masquerades as the angel or masquerades as your wellness instructor, how do you know? Ultimately, a decision needs to be made and you need to do something. So what are the secrets then, Chris, to how to tell whether a spirit lies or not? Is it just a case of crisis control?
I suppose in some ways it comes down to developing that rapport and being following your gut and your instinct, and not feeling too comfortable with a spirit. So the same way you wouldn't with a friend, like you always kind of keep one eye open anyway. Or maybe that's just me, but the just kind of just because you've got a relationship with it, they aren't human. So at the end of the day,
What if
those
they're
normal
discarnate
concepts,
human souls like dead people, though?
even dead people, what do they know?
Clearly not dead.
So it's one of those things where people, I think, sometimes forget. Just because you were nice to some deity once, unless there was a contract involved where it's going to guarantee that it's going to be nice to you the next time, there is no guarantee. So people gain and lose favor all the time. Just look at the demigods in a lot of old mythology. They were great, best of friends, still fucked him over in the end.
Did you listen to my Demigods podcast? I did.
No.
Oh, okay. So on the secret part of the Patreon, I started doing a new series, which is like Mad Occult Ramblings, where we take things and I put, like, because we breeze over a lot of subjects, I just take one little subject and just go in depth in it. And it was all about demigods. So you've got to listen to that. I haven't released it yet because I didn't want to release it without you saying, yeah, I'm uncomfortable with this because there's some oversharing in there. I'm not going to lie. But I thought we need to do a couple of more bits of content for the higher tiers. So I'm doing a secret podcast. They didn't say secret now. I've released it publicly, but no one heard about that. So we have got a couple of statements and questions. One is, Yahweh has a vested interest in saying other gods lie. This is very true. Very true. Greg says, I wouldn't trust Odin regardless, smiley face. Wise words, Chris? What do you think?
Wise words.
You don't trust Odin either?
No.
KT Veronica, I wouldn't ask the police the time. I wouldn't ask an angel the time either. So I don't think she trusts the police or angels by the looks of it. Either that or she holds them in so high regard. It could be this, actually, Chris. She might hold angels and police officers in such high regard that she thinks, I could not waste a police or angel's time with just such a simplistic question. They're so much more important than that. I couldn't ask them that, She also puts, so if we are all spirits and you could be living this life, but also be Thoth. Oh, she thinks she's Thoth now. How could a spirit know everything? Or am I just not getting this? I think on a number of levels, you is not getting this, love. But Chris will explain.
Chris will explain. Of course he will. Just trying to make sure I follow the question that she's actually asked.
I'll put it back up. There we go.
So, okay. Even if you were Thoth in another life, you would still struggle to fit Thoth in a human body. Just saying. So just because you're in the body does not mean you have necessarily full access, or at least you couldn't bring that awareness. The human body wouldn't be possible to hold all of that at once. So you would have to pick and choose the subject of choice when you needed it. So it would be a case of, okay, today I'm going to be an expert in medicine, and you'd be lucky if you got at least half of that. So you've got to try and be quantifiable is not the word I want. You've got to be proportionate.
I love stitching you up.
It's got to be proportionate. So even if that was part and parcel, obviously, you saw the episode on Pokeballs and all that sort of stuff. You'll see how these are all connected in order to have that answer. But it's like anything. You become an expert in meteorology and then you forget where you left your keys. There is always, it doesn't matter how smart you are, the human brain can only do so much. So that awareness comes and goes. But to kind of answer your question, I think, because I don't think that did, I was just explaining the bigger concept that you've kind of slipped on there and not actually. So yes, there was a snippet about that. A spirit can know everything because they don't have the restrictions of a physical body. Their expansion in consciousness is not tied to a physical being. So you need to go back to your soul map and see how many bodies away from being a deity you actually are, and what that would actually require. And even if you could deify the spirit you've currently got, that doesn't mean it works in the same way outside of this universe. So, but there's plenty for you to think about. There you go. Thanks for stitching me up.
So to put it simply then, Katie, Veronica, spirits can only know what they understand. If they understand everything, they know everything. If you are Thoth, you will only know what Thoth knows while you assume the form of Thoth. Oh, okay. Because I played that Lara Croft Tomb Raider game and I could do certain things in that, right? And then I played this Enter the Matrix game back in the day and I could do certain things in that. But tell you what, I couldn't do. I couldn't do the stuff I could do in the Lara Croft game in the Enter the Matrix game. But I could switch between the two of them.
That was
and when I was in the Lara Croft game, I learned a computer programming, which meant I was able to program the Enter the Matrix game to do all the stuff I could do in the Lara Croft game. Now that's a head fuck because I can't make it too simple for people. And there we go. So we don't want to go into a seventh dimension and that living and so on and so forth. We need to continue with the lies, Chris. Not our lies of the spirits and the spirit world. Okay, then.
So let's say we had Thoth and we were having a chat with Thoth. How would we make sure that Thoth was telling us the truth?
I know. You use the book and put him in a triangle and say the magic words. What are the magic words, I hear you ask?
Abracadabra?
Well, no, that's not the magic.
Is that a different triangle?
In this case. That's different. That's different triangle, Chris. That's a different triangle. This is a lies triangle of lies, you see. And because it's all neo-pagans and the like, then you need to utter the magic words. And we know all these pagans like all the bardic shit, where it's all rhyming couplets and bollocks and all fancy. So the evocation would be, if I get the book out, tell me lies, tell me sweet pagan lies. Not. There we go. That's all you've got to do. So the concept of this really is being able to force a spirit to tell you the truth. I think that's the concept there, because obviously there's a certain amount of trust that you could say. So if you trust in the spirit, that was like those ladies coming up to me and asking me, "Oh, you look like a trustworthy gent." Little do they know I'm not. Where's the bus station? What they could have done is come up to me and put a gun to my head and tell me where the bus station is. Because that puts me under some pressure, doesn't it? You know? But where's the mistake in that, though? Because the
You
mistake in
probably
that
still
is
tell them
that,
the wrong place.
yeah, exactly. But they're not going to drag me along, are they? So as soon as they let go of the binding, and you think, okay, I'm going to make it tell me the truth. This is why torture don't work, kids. Trust me, I know. I'm really good at torturing people. They can tell you lies, lies, lies when you're torturing. Eventually, you got to end the torture, and then you generally end it on when they change the story and you believe it. But actually, some people, even under torture, they won't. So really, what you need is that magical is it sodium pentaple, something like that, truth
Yeah.
serum.
Truth serum.
So could you make a truth serum that would work on a spirit, whether it's a physical oil, magical oil, or the like? If you can, we need to get Lady Poison on that pronto, because I bet it would sell like hotcakes. Lady Poison out there, if you're listening, see if you can make a truth serum that works on spirits. But your next oil should be that. We'll call it Poisonous Truth. So yeah, the idea of forcing a spirit to tell you the truth, how does that work? Because in this, it generally requires threatening and giving it and torturing it and that, and then also compelling it. I compel thee to tell the truth, you know, like what old getting Jesus to do it. So what are they doing?
But both of those work in the same principle, which is you threaten it with something more powerful than you, because most of them don't actually threaten in their own name; they threaten in someone else's. So with the triangles and the circles and the gazillion cycles and cycles and cycles that Solomon
the power
would
of
have used.
Christ compels you.
Yeah.
Where's my
Well,
upside
that's
down crucifix?
exorcism. You are doing it in someone else's name. Now the question is, in those situations, do you have the power to actually do that?
The
So
power of Christ compels you.
are they a set? Are they are they words that you have the right to say? So this is one thing that often ceremonial magicians do not consider, which is, well, the book said, Solomon said, you use these angels' names in order to do it. Now you are threatening it over and over again. I think we've covered this in another one. I can't think what it was. Just because you've put Michael's name all over it does not necessarily mean Michael's going to come. Unless you've got an arrangement with Michael, it's why has he got any obligation to come and support you? So with the priest and obviously the exorcism, that priest will believe they have the authority given to them by that deity specifically. They are a priest of that deity, therefore they have certain privileges, should we say. One of the privileges suggested is that the Roman Catholic Church have the ability to cast demons out. But what's stopping that said demon to say, well, I'm not a demon?
So
I don't hold that title.
The idea of you, if God, Yahweh, is the supreme deity and all things need to listen and do what the deity says, because he's like that little boss on the cartoon. I want what I want is Yahweh. You pretending to be Yahweh, you being the microcosm to the macrocosm, pretending to be it, means that the spirits will say, it's Yahweh. Quick, everyone go about doing their business. Stop possessing people, everyone, and let's bugger off back to hell, where we were put as an eternal trap, which we somehow escaped from. Don't know how that works. Quantum.
No, me not.
Hashtag power of Christ compels you. You notice when I did that, he was coughing earlier. It's because Chris is possessed by a demon.
Right. We'll see.
So Michelle picks up on a very interesting point, right? That I'm not entirely sure where she's got this, or I think I might have been putting words in her mouth. But she says, is a spirit who deliberately misleads you simply using your energy to feed off of? I would say no, because it will depend on why the spirit's lying. I lied to the women because I couldn't. I was like, is over there. I wanted him gone. You know, they were interrupting my flow state. I was listening. I had to take a headphone out. I had to take one of my headphones out. So they're gonna suffer the fucking consequences of that.
Interrupting me.
Yeah. So interrupting some spirit or the like, you might end up getting smited, or you might just be told the wrong information, or you might be told the right information to, and then to go away. But at the same time, the spirit might try to manipulate you. What is it manipulating you to do? Well, who knows? It depends on the spirit and it depends on you. But the main thing, as above, so below, all spirits have wants and desires and reasons for doing things, and so do all things upon the earth. The difference is it can be extremely difficult to understand where the spirit's coming from and the things, why it does it. Why did the chicken cross the road? It's a chicken. It's not a human. It's a chicken. The answer is because you didn't fucking cook it.
Okay. That's your answer? Okay.
Well, there's loads of answers. There could be chicken feed on the other side of the road. He could be running away from something. Ultimately, we don't know why the chicken crossed the road. And ultimately, you don't necessarily know why the spirit is doing what the spirit is doing, because it can be complicated to get into the psychology of a human and to try and work out why the human does the thing the human does. But when you factor in a huge thing such as a powerful spirit that exists on multiple dimensions, that's even more complicated. So, it can be a difficult one. So we're 38 minutes in. We've told a few jokes. How do we help people deal with this kind of seriously as what can we do to help people if they're questioning this? Because I think we came up with crisis management as a thing, didn't we? So that would be my go-to approach, would be crisis management, and to kind of use common sense and a quantum thinking to do all of these things at once and select all of these things at once. So not just ask the police officer, but also ask other people on the street, and also wander about and find myself, and use my various psychological techniques to look into the face and look at the behavioral psychology of all the people I ask and assess them. That's the equivalent of psychic work with spirits and the like, all of these things. Lots of tools in your toolbox. Stacking the deck in your favor, I think. And of course, most importantly, anyone going to come in with this? People in the comments? I know there's a bit of a delay, to be fair, isn't there? Most importantly, don't trust a spirit with something uberly important, just in case. You could trust them with a load of low-level shit. It don't matter, ultimately. But when a decision needs to be made, remember, you're the one making the decision, and you're the one reaping the benefits, or potentially just getting reaped from the result of that decision you make.
Yeah, it's back to the proportionate thing that we were talking about before. You're not going to take the risk with a big question when you haven't ever verified the small questions. So, it's a case of asking things that you they couldn't possibly know. So testing, I'm not suggesting that every spirit should go under a testing a method of testing each time. The safest way is to obviously create and build a rapport with a spirit to the point that you will trust them with certain questions if you really need to understand that. Obviously, it comes down to having a theoretical understanding and then testing the theory. That's the important part of it. Is, okay, well, if they give you an answer, can you verify it? Some questions are more difficult than others, but there are ways. It's then up to you to then find the best way that you can verify that. So it's a case of, how best can you do that? So if you were to ask if you were to ask one of the Goetic spirits how the triangle works, why the triangle works, without having to use
what triangle? I don't know what triangle you're talking about. Triangle.
Yeah.
Oh, abracadabra. I'll tell you all about abracadabra.
Tell you all about abracadabra.
You know that book over there, the little mini green one? That one? Yeah, that one. Can you go and burn it and burn every other copy of it as well and delete the PDFs?
Yeah.
Just saying. It's not a good read. Don't bother reading it. That's manipulation. Is that lies? Difficult. Whereas, what's the difference between a spirit manipulating and not giving you the full truth, a little white lie, and then telling an outright lie and the like? Interesting.
So to bring this into context with which was 3, then obviously it's a case of you've got to consider the fact that actually how much information how are you going to test that information and what information they're able to give you. So because obviously you're going to need to be able to understand. The test of this is you understand how the sigil works. So, and why it works in that particular, the secrets of it. There may be secrets in there that have nothing to do with how it works and are more to do tell you secrets about the particular spirit itself. Like, so you're talking, this is a translation method. What we're asking you to do is to translate a sigil that you did not create. You are having to, back translate something that was not even made in this time. So, you need to be considering exactly what that is. So obviously there are theoretical ways to test it. You've got an entire tome that Liam keeps waving about, that, could you approach it? Could you approach it in a translator's method? Look at enough of them and kind of go, oh, okay, there's a bit of a theme here, and apply all sorts of other things. What we're asking you to do is to do it by evocation. So, but we're still saying that actually a certain amount of research prior to actually doing it is a healthy thing to do, and to make sure that you are able to test that and prove, not to us, but prove to yourself that what you're seeing is what you're seeing. So, is this actually true evocation, or is this, like we were talking about in the original video, invocation masquerading as evocation? Have you got some kind of bridge going on there, and actually it's your psychic ability is what you're experiencing the same way that you normally would. So, it's about you kind of learning more about what you're capable of doing and how you're capable of distinguishing between the two. So, this is what this is about. So lying is the one of those ways of kind of going, well, actually, can I verify what they've said? Am I asking the right questions? I'm not suggesting that you play, I don't even know what you call it. What's that game with the 3 cups and the ball? The sideshow jobby.
Oh, that's like the oldest one in the book, isn't it?
Find the Queen.
The con one.
Yeah.
I can't remember actually what they call that.
So I'm not suggesting
I know what you mean,
that's what
though.
I'm not suggesting that's what you do, but there are ways for you to check what is capable. So, ask questions to which you know the answer, but then obviously the flaw in that is, are they just reading your mind?
The
So
shell
then you're
game.
having, the shell game.
Shell game. I think it used to be done with shells back in the day.
So, it's about you developing your method, your inquisition kind of methods. And I don't mean necessarily torture and Iron Maidens, but what I am
Full
actually talking
Monty,
about.
that's it.
Yeah.
Full Monty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Of
they used
course,
to do it
Julie
with
would know what it
shells,
is. It's
and
about
then they've
shells.
got cups and stuff like that as well now. But yeah, shell game. But yeah, they call it Monty, the Full Monty. And it's a con, isn't it? But yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
So the all I was trying to say was, obviously this is about you finding. It's an extension of what you've done in which Wars 2. So instead of just getting information, it's verifying information in order for you to be able to verify what you're seeing and trusting your senses and which senses of yours to trust. So there is a big part of this that again is psychic work. It's conjuration, but it's also psychic work. So the pair together will allow you to actually make decent work of this. So is there anything else we need to cover necessarily?
Yeah, loads of stuff.
Go on
So,
then.
with regards to the truth, how do you tell if a spirit's telling the truth? What degree of a lie is it? Is this information still useful? Is it part of a lie? Is it all of a lie? Michelle did say, although she did say you already answered this, but the little bit in the end, what do you do when you discover that it is a liar? One thing I would say to that, what do you do if you discover a person is a liar? It's simple, you don't trust them. But does that necessarily mean that you have to abandon that relationship or bind them and stick them in a cupboard or something? The office liar, if that person's a liar, you just don't trust them. But does that mean that you have to get rid of them? Does that mean that you have to not interact with them? Well, technically, they might have other uses. So, as above, so below. What would you do with a human that was a liar to you? If you're the sort that don't ever want to see it again, don't ever work with the spirit again. If you're the sort that's like, I could use this for a certain thing, use it for a certain thing. And of course, possibly one of the scariest detrimental lies that I see as spirits tell, and that is who they are. So, if I had conjured
Is there a
up,
reason you keep going for these long pauses? Are you trying to be dramatic?
because I'm trying to add some drama, Chris. Stop ruining it.
Okay.
You always have to ruin stuff. Right. So, spirit number 72. What if I conjured up Andromalius, but another spirit came instead and pretended to be Andromalius? That's a lie, in it, Chris. It pretended to be someone else, Like when Yahweh conjures up, jumps up when people call on Odin and shit. And he's like, yes, I'm Odin. Look, I've got no eye. Or there's a certain one where there's a certain spirit that was going around to certain people that may be on the Patreon that was claiming to be a god from alien god from the Pleiades or some shit like that. Can you remember that when we had that problem with that? Oh, that was a fun year. How did we tell that that was a liar? That's an interesting one, because the person or people that came to us to talk about that, they couldn't tell. They were tricked by it. So how come we weren't tricked by it?
Well, one, they weren't in my address book.
So you're going on basically,
and my address
the
book covers
neighborhood.
lots of things.
If someone says, I live in number 737. You'd say, no, you fucking don't. I know who lives in number 377
Yeah.
or 337 or wherever the fucking number I said. I know every fucking person on the street, and you ain't one of them. Oh, I just moved in. No, you didn't just move in. Ain't been no removal laws round here. You're alive. You could
But
go
yeah,
to a certain degree and you could say,
it's down to exactly that. It is the case of how likely is the information they're telling you. So for me, it's obviously it was a case, and yourself, it was a case of, well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit what I know about that particular region or what I know about that particular kind of spirit. And also, what the fuck would they be doing there anyway? They got no business being there.
and the energetic profile, though, that's the big one because people can't
Yeah.
read them.
Yeah.
If someone came to you and they said to you that they're a dragon, would you say, you are a dragon, I can see that? Or would you say, no, you're just a lonely person that's joined too many internet forums and needs to grow up and get counseling? Which one is it? Well, I can tell by the energetic profile that the person's a sad, miserable person that needs to feel empowered. But then I can also tell from the physical profile that he is a humanoid human, which leads me to believe that he is not a dragon. Same when those black-eyed children come and knocking on the door, like, oh, you're those things I used to collect when I was a kid. I got some of your brothers and sisters in jars somewhere. And then they run away. Well, they don't really run away, do they? They just kind of like, they just kind of go. And then it's just gone, right? I don't know. I don't get visited by such things anymore. I think I've got a bit of a reputation. But there we go. We're going off on a tangent again.
You're off on tangents again. You're being overly dramatic, as Michelle is pointing out.
Michelle loves the overly dramatic. She says Liam's bringing the dramatic license. License means we can do it, Chris. Although it does also mean that it can be revoked. So I'm not so worried. I'm a bit worried about that one. If you give someone a permit or a license, it means it can be revoked.
Just don't get the license in the first place and just do it.
Common law. Hashtag common law.
So anyway, to get back on point, it is down to detective work at the end of the day. Does it fit the profile? Does the energy make sense? Even if something came with flashing lights and seemed like, but you should be able to tell and distinguish between the energy signatures that are coming off. This is the whole reason that we go through scratch testing, etc., so that you have a better understanding of what energy you're working with. So if that has a bigger presence than it should have, you're kind of like, how's it doing that? Your job is to find out how and why. In what, who gave it the mask? Did it create the mask itself? Is that why it's so hollow? Or is it a case that they borrowed it from somewhere else that somebody wasn't watching? Yahweh wasn't watching his mask, so we ran off with it.
Is it a cheap fake Gucci handbag or is it legit? Do you have the skills necessary to be able to see that? Or are you just going by the fact that the person looks a little chavvy and probably couldn't afford the legitimate Gucci handbag? Multiple skills. You could tell that the bag is not legitimate. So that's really reading the energetic profile. But then you could also go for the other thing, perhaps. But you might be more wrong with that one, because some people that have got a lot of money and buy Gucci handbags look like the sort that are on Hollyoaks. But yeah, there we go. So there was another thing that I wanted to mention. I can't remember because I was clowning about. I know it was important, though.
Not paying attention.
It was really important.
That's fine. I'll carry on talking. Oh,
so
I remembered.
So it was talking about the old elixir and the forcing the spirit to tell itself.
Oh, okay.
Deterrence. Okay. So if this, because you have to remember consequences have actions. So if the spirit tells you a lie and you work out that spirit's telling a lie and you take revengeance on that spirit and that spirit exists outside of the space of time and knows that you're going to do that, it might be less inclined to tell you that lie. Therefore, if you as a badass witch that the spirit is scared to lie to, because this is where the old thing comes in here. A lot of the time they put other spirits and enforce their aura with the names of other spirits to try and say, look, you lied to me, you lied to all my buddies whose names I've miswritten in all of these circles that you're seeing. Not that you got eyes because you're a spirit, but, you know, spirits, like on the films, they just see everything from above, don't they, you know? Like on Kill Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, summing up then, Chris, what is the information they need to remember?
They need to remember that, you know, all spirits can lie. This whole test is designed for you to be able to make more difference. The whole point of all of these challenges is to check where you're at and for you to get better at it. That's how all of these challenges are set. So, you know, you should be trying this, seeing what you experience, testing it out on other spirits if you're still scared, or moving forward until you get what you need to get. And then once you have managed to achieve it, how can you use that? So, so for what's going on here is a case of, how do you tell it's lying? Is it lying? How can you verify? If you can't verify, do you need to scare it into telling you the truth? Or do you have to try other methods? So, what is in your arsenal already, and what new skills do you want to gain during the process?
So picking another spirit from the Goetia. Let's see. Let's make one relevant, because we got a little bit of time left before the hour's up. No, I don't like that one. That one's a liar. Don't like that one. Spirit number 26. Spirit called Boon. A lot of people call it Boon. Blah, 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 blah. Comely voice. Blah, 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 blah. He giveth riches to man, and maketh him wise and eloquent. Riches. If you want wealth, you could evoke the spirit Boon. If he has money troubles or something. And it might give you could say, Boon, I hear you're good with money and shit. Give us the lottery numbers. Right. Boon gives you some lottery numbers, but you haven't won the lottery because those numbers didn't come up. Is Boon a liar?
Or are you not specific enough?
So that's to do with communication and interpretation, isn't it? Maybe the spirit ain't a liar.
Maybe you just asking the wrong question.
Just says lottery, yes, lottery there. That number, that number, that number, that number all comes up. But it comes up in like decades and decades time. Who knows? Who knows?
But yeah, it is finding the best way, and at the end of the day, it's going to be trial and error. There are no perfect answers, because me and Liam could evoke the same spirit. We have different relationships with that spirit. We have different skill sets that we use when we're using magic. So there is no one size fits all. It's about you finding out what your balance is between your psychic ability and what you're able to do with energy. Those two things are how you're going to make this work. So can you create the right environment in order for that to exist? as a full evocation? Are you capable? We joked about it in the first video, or I probably did, about the fact there is nothing stopping you invoking first. The whole point of the role is for you to get a full evocation. If you have to invoke in order to then evoke later, we didn't say you can't do that. We're just saying that actually you need to be prepared for what happens. So, making sure you have a get out plan. There is, if things go wrong in the ways that they can go wrong, how are you getting out of it? So, it's going with designing a game plan, testing it. That one didn't work. Create a new plan. Try that out.
Like we alluded to and said on multiple occasions, crisis management. You're essentially, what if it does go wrong? Because this is where things go wrong with people's magical approaches, you see. What they think is they think in linear terms because they're a linear people in a three-dimensional world. So they think, I need to do this, and then that needs to happen. What you should be thinking, really, is you should be thinking, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen. I'm going to come up with a solution and protect against all of those things. So if you're dealing with the spirit, then yes, you could say, well, I'm only going to rely on the spirit's information for things that don't really matter whether I act on it. So if you want advice and it to tell you the truth, you could say, well, it doesn't really matter because I just asked it where I could find a penny on the floor and it told me a lie. But it don't matter because I don't care. I got loads of pennies in the bank, 10 of them, So, but then at the same time, you could be thinking, okay, if I do get lied to and there ain't no pennies there, then how can I make there be a penny there? If I want money and Boone tells me the lottery numbers, what happens if he gives me lies? I've got to have another game plan. Crisis management, I think, is what they actually call risk management, actually. But generally speaking, when you're talking lies and spirits telling lies and shit, people always hit me up and tell me they're in a crisis. So crisis management, from my perspective, from your perspective, you're really thinking risk management because you haven't caused the problem yet and fucked up. So it's a risk because it hasn't happened. By the time it comes to me, it's a crisis. If you have a crisis and you want our help, get yourselves on the Thoth Witchcraft Patreon because there are mentoring services where we can have video chats and the like and help you sort out your magical problems. We ain't sort it for you because we don't charge that amount of money. If you wanted us to sort it for you, it'd cost a lot more than a Thoth Witchcraft Patreon membership, I can tell you that. But we will help you on your way. Help you.
Before we
help
go,
them that help themselves, don't we?
Help you help yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to kind of answer very quickly Michelle's last question before we go.
That one?
No, that's Bewley.
Oh,
one above.
Yeah.
To properly thank a spirit who has been honest, I assume you would pick up that while establishing the rapport, correct? That would be correct. The tip I keep giving, and isn't sinking in necessarily with everybody, but I keep giving it anyway, is the best way to work with any spirit is to make sure that what you are asking it to do is something it likes to do. Therefore, it already has the gratitude in the arrangement that you've already set. So, don't ask somebody that's scared of heights to fly. It's that simple. So, if somebody doesn't like getting dirty, don't give it dirty jobs. You have the luxury as, these wannabe super witches of learning as many spirits as possible and having different rapports with different spirits. And the whole point of this is for you to try out the Goetics and see if that works for you too. But the best way to arrange it is to try and have that part of the deal dealt with when you're making the work happen is the easiest way for you. So you already know by reading the very small excerpts that are in the Solomon lesser key, you can see there are going to be some things that it would likely like to do, based on the fact of what it was described as in there. So you already have a tidbit to go with it. You're not going to necessarily ask Achilles to do the samba. It just isn't going to necessarily be what he's interested in doing. So, it's if you can put that into the work you're asking it to do, you're already halfway there. The thank you may not be necessary if it's something it really likes doing.
Yeah, I know someone that's rather, let's say, portly, and they don't like to do anything other than watch Coronation Street. I also know someone that's quite fit that likes exploring, and I want to go for a nice hike up a hill. I go and I ask the person that likes hiking, because they're all too willing to do that. I might even dress it up and say, there's this really cool place to hike. Do you want to go sometime? It's really just a hill. But I jazz it up. It's called salesmanship, right? You sell it. Yeah. Sell it to the spirit. They'll be able to see straight through it, but I find it quite fun. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a difficult question because ultimately there's no clear answer, because you can try and force a spirit to tell you the truth by threatening it and torturing it, but that doesn't always work, and it will depend on your ability to do that. You can trust a spirit that you've got a rapport with. That doesn't necessarily always work either, It is one of those things. Magic is dangerous at the end of the day, and this is one of those things that is dangerous. With regards to Witch Wars 3, we will be making a little memorial page on the Facebook for everyone that dies at the attempt. So, like I said, the magic is dangerous.
Oh dear.
But you will be remembered. I suppose it's over and out from us tonight. So, as they say on, I think it's Most Haunted, isn't it? Sleep tight. I did some of the next level of that field in shit.